my name is Eli Dolan, and I served a mission in Liberia. And that was for 2 years. They're very close. The culture is they're close with each other because they have to rely on each other. There's not much money there, so they really have to rely on each other to get food and just to do everyday business. So that's kind of how they rely on each other. So the family is very spread apart. Even in church, when we would go to church, could see a husband sit in the front, and then the wife sit in the back, and then the kids sit wherever they want. The religion philosophy, they had just got done with the Civil War, and so everything, like even the businesses, were named after God. There's mostly Christians, but a lot of Muslims too, and so the whole community, all of Liberia, just relies on God because they went through so much. They don't have anything else. All they have is prayer and God. So the presence there from the church is really good. It's not very big, but it helps out in the community. There's not very much moral value there, so the church gives that presence there, and it gives that standard for people to live by. Education is, I didn't really see too much of that. I know it was there, but it wasn't as enforced as it should be. Not many people could read. Even reading from the scriptures and stuff, we'd have to read along with them or show them how to read. So it wasn't very enforced, if that makes sense.
And if you could kind of guesstimate what percentage did you find that people could read?
Maybe 40%.
And do people do they stop going to school at a certain point, or who are the people that go to school?
Okay. So if I'm remembering correctly, it's through high school. It's kind of like America, where we have the standard of going until you finish high school. But at the same time, if you don't have money, you don't go. And most people finish high school around like 25, 24. So it's really spread out, and there's not much you can do about that if you don't have the money. The main thing with technology is, like, I'm sure maybe you've heard that people would rather have a cell phone than a toothbrush, and that's true in Liberia too. That most everyone has a cell phone, and maybe they don't have money to make phone calls on it, but they have a cell phone. So that's kind of the basic technology that they have. Internet, there are internet cafes some places in Liberia, so you get to use the internet if you go to the cafe. But other than that, power, it's not really there. Generators is what most of Liberia runs off of. Well, I think Liberia is like the place where it rains the second most in the world. And so it's really tropical, it's really humid, and so there are lots of plants, lots of trees everywhere. So it's a little different than most of what you think of when you think of Africa. So yeah, it's just lots of trees. It's very dense with growth, so you can see tons of bushes everywhere you go. So to help that situation, I'm sure there are efforts outside of Liberia, but one of the main problems with Liberia is the government and corruption. It's probably the main part, and so it's really hard to get anything done inside of Liberia from the government. Like, I'll just give you an instance. Like, if someone gets hurt in a car accident, the first person to help is probably take like 2 hours for the police to come, just because they don't care too much. So yeah, just for the government, there's a lot of corruption. There's a lot of belief in magic and yeah, things that will push them to the next level. So it's all about power, and so yeah, it's not really, the government's not doing the best that they can for that. So, there are lots of diseases in Liberia. it's even the water. All of the water is infected with typhoid, and so when we drink water, it have to be filtered through a 3-tier filter system, and so you'd have to be very careful with anything that you touched or anything that you did, because like I said, the hygiene of Liberia is very, very low. So because of the humidity, anything with a disease in it will grow, and at night there's malaria from the mosquitoes. So they're not so much. I'm trying to think of, because how they're organized is not always where they're just stacked on top of each other, but there's a place in Liberia called West Point, where it's just one layer, but they're like 80,000 people in this small area. So there's houses are really packed together. They're separated by paper or tin, and so it's really close quarters. There are lots of people that just live with each other. So not a lot of tourists because of the Civil War. Everything is destroyed. It'd be hard to have a good time without power. So because it's so hot. So
it looks like. I mean, I would love to go there on vacation. It looks so beautiful.
Mm-hmm. At least one that I know of. It's called the Ducor Palace. That's a historical site. It used to be extremely beautiful. All the tourists would live there, and now it's just a rundown building. But it's still fun to tour. We would go up and just see the whole city limits, like from on top. It's a lot of fun. So a typical day for a kid would be to get up, to probably do some dishes, and that's probably one of the main things that they do, because cooking is a hard job, and so for them they'd probably have to get a bucket, go to a well somewhere maybe half a mile away, or it could be like 30 feet away, but they'd have to pump the water or get it from a well, and then they carry it on their heads, and then that's the water that they use for cooking, and that they clean dishes, and maybe they play with their friends, or a can from the cooking. They'd make something out of the can. Anything that they like, sticks that they can find, they make into toys. So yeah. So the main game that the kids play is marbles. But the main like toy that they make is just a little car that's made out of cans from their cooking, like the tomato paste or whatever. They hook it together with sticks, and then they just pull it around with the string. So yeah, that's the main thing. Not much else there, but the economy, I think it's like 80% or something like that, live under $1 a day. And so it's hard for them to get by, and so every day is a new day for them. It could be stressful, it could be not, and so every day is a fight to get their food for that day. And so it's kind of hard for them, because whatever they get is just enough to get rice and a topping for on top of that. So it's malnourished anyway.